She'll hate it, but it sure seems like Nicki Minaj is turning into Kid Rock. Will she perform at the next fake halftime show? What is wrong with them? Why is this happening? I have some theories. I'm Amanda Marcotte. Welcome to Standing Room Only. Okay, time to get real for a minute. My original plan for this video was to watch TPUSA and Kid Rock's alternative halftime show. Most of you no doubt watched Bad Bunny at the real Super Bowl. So my first impulse was to play MAGA halftime clips and make fun of it for you. But then I watched the actual show, you guys. It wasn't funny bad, it was just boring. The only entertaining stuff was how small the crowd was, or the brass knuckles on the microphone, or the stiff way they kept calling Kid Rock homie, or worse, brother.
Please welcome our homie, Kid Rock. Please welcome our brother, Robert Ritchie.
But yeah, the music itself was a snooze. Every time I try to read TPUSA, I just think it's a toilet paper brand. TPUSA. Just, you wipe your ass with it. TPUSA had months to plan this, and still, Charlie Kirk's hastily thrown together memorial had more spectacle. Even the TPUSA fans didn't care. I watched the live comment feed during the show, and it was a bunch of people talking about Jesus or posting waving flag emojis. Almost no one said anything about the show. Honestly, I think most of them were watching it on mute. I mean, I kind of wish I had. It did prove one thing. TPUSA is not a youth organization. It exists to shake down racist grandparents for cash. Kid Rock got famous when Bill Clinton was still president. But the real tell was the post-show efforts to pretend this was all so relevant.
Man, you rocked it last night. Crazy viewership.
It was a massive, near record-breaking success.
It was an utter humiliation for the woke forces.
These numbers are numbers that are monumental.
20 million at very minimum. I think that number is going to go higher, 40, maybe even 50 in the next 24 hours. And we don't know how many people were gathered together, 3, 4, 10 in a room.
You even had fans tuning into the TPUSA halftime show at the stadium itself.
I'm very upset with TPUSA because every year I look forward to watching the Super Bowl, being subjected to some horrible leftist halftime show, and then getting to complain about it for a full week after that.
The founding fathers, when they first created a national motto, it was E pluribus unum, which means in Latin, out of many, one. And meaning that they understood the unifying importance of having a country where we all can come around and share a cultural identity together. Mm-hmm. And that's what I felt like the TPUSA halftime show really celebrated.
One unbroken culture, from the founding fathers stealing black people's labor to Kid Rock stealing their music. But seriously, who is this for? Not young people. Even the president's watch party streamed Bad Bunny and not Kid Rock. Candace Owens made fun of TPUSA, and for once, she's making sense.
I can't even think of how many times I could underscore how absurd what they presented here is. And as a YouTuber, this offends me. The Turning Point halftime show, which just like Biden's vote in 2020, when we slept, a bunch of more views came in on YouTube. A few people reached out to me. They've said there were actually only 180 people in the audience, and they used camera tricks to make it look like it was really filled. The audacity to claim that the Super Bowl, the alternative Super Bowl, was a success, it should upset you. It's such a lie.
Still, it gives me a chance to talk about something I've been wanting to discuss for a while. Why MAGA is such a magnet for has-beens. It's not just Kid Rock. Think Roseanne Barr, Kelsey Grammer, or Mel Gibson, or Nelly, or Carrie Underwood, or Amber Rose. Understanding this will answer a question that's been bugging a lot of people. Why has Nicki Minaj gone MAGA? She would probably hate this, but Nicki is turning into Kid Rock. Not visually, but they are sounding a lot alike these days. Both of them are into paranoid conspiracy theories.
Joe Biden won an election. That's what happened.
Just because, no, there was COVID going on. There was all sorts of horse shit going on.
What that
They use that as a disguise. I don't know exactly. Just because you don't get caught doesn't not make it a crime.
I don't think we landed on the moon.
You don't?
No.
Both are weird about trans people.
I personally don't have an issue with the trans part of the LGBT. 99% of the parents would not let their 17-year-old child get breast implants. So if you want to let a child get breast implants, you're not going to want them to have any kind of surgery because we all know the brain is not developed.
Only time I've been around transgender people is like some crazy club like in Miami or New York back in the day. And guys say fun. So you think fucking men should be in women's sports? Like, nah. That's where I'm drawing the fucking line. Get the fuck out of here.
And both conveniently found Jesus after years of being decadent rock stars.
You think there's a real Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely?
Absolutely. 1,000%.
What makes you convinced?
My faith.
So you're undisputably the queen of rap. Who do you think is the king?
God is the king.
And they both want you to know that they're bigwig Republicans now.
Would you ever consider using your platform to enter politics?
Yes, I've already entered.
This weekend I actually get to do some music because some days, to just be fortunate enough to be friends with POTUS and the administration, I feel like I work for the frickin' federal government.
You have amazing role models like our handsome, dashing president.
But I'm no Elvis, although Trump calls me Elvis all the time.
He does? Trump calls you Elvis.
Better than Elvis.
Kid Rock was always the Confederate flag guy, so this isn't a huge shift. But Nicki is a woman and an immigrant from Trinidad. Also, unlike Kid Rock, she used to be good. The people crave answers. Is she trading favors with the White House? Does she want a pardon for somebody? Is she being paid off? My theory is that Nicki is just like Kid Rock, a has-been. But their egos are too big to let them age gracefully. And if there's one thing the MAGA movement offers people, it's an excuse not to grow up. It's a safe space for mediocre people who want to blame everyone else because they can't keep up with the times. I'll discuss this more during Pass the Mic with my guest, Jay Smooth. Naomi Klein, the author of the book Doppelganger, has a tongue-in-cheek formula to predict when someone will go MAGA. Narcissism plus social media addiction plus midlife crisis divided by a public shaming. She concocted it to explain what happened to once feminist Naomi Wolf, but it also applies to J.K. Rowling, or Joe Rogan, or Elon Musk. Nicki has seen her star fade in recent years. She's being eclipsed by younger female rappers like Doja Cat or Megan Thee Stallion. She isn't taking it well, but MAGA is there, ready to tell you that all change is bad. Here's the thing that celebrities should understand, however. Going MAGA backfires. It's even backfiring on Kid Rock. He's been planning this Rock the Country festival. He marketed it as an apolitical, patriotic tour. But then he did this TPUSA thing, and now all these artists are pulling out. He even lost Creed. Creed! Celebrities often go MAGA because they feel hurt and rejected by mainstream audiences. They're not selling like they used to. They got yelled at on social media. But Republicans will say they love you because they share your resentments.
People have been, doing a lot of bullying and smear campaigns and stuff like that.
The liberals have farted fucking for years on their own brains over and over again.
Why do I even care about these people and what they think? Who are they?
Fuck the younger generation. I'm just going to roll with mine into the sunset.
Sometimes people can push you so much that they push you all the way into your next calling.
There's just a percentage of these fucking trolls on the left and on the right. They're like, I'm so empowered by the internet. Yeah. I'm going to piss and bitch and moan and, I have a voice. It's like, go fuck yourself.
You called for Don Lemon's arrest over his church stunt in Minneapolis. He's since called you racist, unhinged, homophobic, and out of your depth. Anything you'd like to say to Don Lemon?
Cocksucker, stop.
Who's gonna sleep with these ugly ass, broke, crazy, deranged, TDS liberal women?
These are people that came up in a time where they were mostly getting a bunch of adoration. Most of their interactions with the public were with fans. And then social media happened. And people could talk back to you. And sometimes they ain't saying nice things. It just clearly fries a lot of people's brains. I mean, I get trolled all the time on Twitter and other social media. And I can tell you, it sucks. It really does. I totally get that part. But like, it's the brain break. I think it's just, I wasn't enjoying all this adoration before that happened to me. They may applaud you at a TPUSA event or like a Fox News video you did, but that short-term gain comes at a long-term loss. Let's face it, your new Republican fans don't really care about you. They aren't buying records or going to shows. They couldn't even pack a venue for Kid Rock. The damage to your reputation can't be undone. These musicians want adoration. They resign themselves to the dustbin of history. I'd like to welcome Jay Smooth to Standing Room Only. Jay is a hip-hop commentator, and I couldn't think of anybody that'd be more fun to talk about this topic with. Welcome to Standing Room Only, Jay.
Honored to be here. Yeah, and I guess we can call this fun if we must. I have so many mixed feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Nicki stuff is more about grief and sadness and loss than it is about fun. During my monologue, I was discussing how Nicki Minaj is kind of turning into Kid Rock in a lot of ways. And I wanted to get your thoughts on the both of them.
Yeah, they really couldn't be more different, although they sort of have ended up landing in the same sad spot in their lives. Kid Rock, always been modestly talented, started out way back in the late 80s as a hip-hop DJ and rapper who was trying to fit in within the hip-hop scene and was discovered by D Nice, actually, back in the days. Back then, he was a rapper with Boogie Down Productions, and he discovered Kid Rock out in Michigan and got him a record deal. And if you go back to Kid Rock's first album, he's basically dressed up like Run DMC, just trying to fit in this black hip-hop culture thing. And I think he learned pretty quickly he didn't really have the skill set to rap for an audience that's into rap music, and rebranded into this sort of country boy, rap rock, ba with the ba sort of pseudo rock rapper. And I think that was the beginning of him finding his niche by being a chameleon who figures out what demographic he can pander to with music that might not really succeed on his musicality, but is going to hit with a certain constituency that wants to rock with it. And Nicki, on the other hand, is the polar opposite. Nicki Minaj, one of the most gifted rappers of all time, one of the most important contributors to the culture. And I really see her as a tragic story because she was at the top more than probably any female MC has ever been, and few MCs in general. And there just seems to have been this pattern of self-destructive and toxic behavior that she's also cultivated in her fan base, not unlike Trump in some ways. And it's brought her to a place where she's no longer on top. And I think we're seeing once again, so many people figure out that when all else is lost, the easiest grift is to pander to this MAGA base. So I think we're seeing both of them sort of fall into that late stage MAGA grift.
You mentioned like Kid Rock actually tried to make it in hip hop initially. And so I want to start by showing you a clip. I actually was like curious what his thoughts are. And so I found a clip of him talking about it fairly recently. So I want to start by showing you this clip.
I got blown by hip hop when I was young, which hip hop, if you really analyze, is the blues music of my day and age. Jazz and blues music influenced popular culture in every music form, touched every corner of the earth. And when hip hop came along, I was really very fortunate to be into it. It's touched everything in the same way. There's never been a musical or an art form that's touched popular culture like blues music or hip hop music. So to have both those backgrounds was really, the people I looked up to, whether it's Bob Seger, Leonard Skinner, Bruce Springsteen, Tom Petty, whoever they are, they all had the blues background, in music. I mean, the Rolling Stones, they wanted to be Motown artists. My mom had a stereo where you turned it on here and had a turntable on top. I used to cut out pieces of felt and I'd sit there and scratch records.
Oh, I bet his mom loved him ruining the needles that way.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the funny thing is, I believe he's sincere when he says things like that. And I think deep down he wishes he could have been that person who was able to thrive representing that sort of music and culture. And I think a common thread between Trump, Nicki, and Kid Rock is a sort of insecurity and deep-seated issues with self-esteem that lead them to sort of act compulsively and go down these paths.
I think what is so confusing for a lot of people with Nicki is that I think to her fans, she wasn't a washed-up has-been, like
Right.
Kid Rock was. Like, I think a lot of people did not see her as somebody who had come to the end of her relevant career, and yet she's still doing this.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated because she's still certainly in a much better position than Kid Rock has ever been, but she has fallen off in recent years from being at the tippy top where she once was. I mean, she reached heights that are rare for any hip-hop artist or pop artist to get to. And a funny thing happened at that point where she had really opened the doors for an era of hip-hop where rather than there just being one dominant female MC at a time, there was this whole host of incredible artists that came out alongside and after Nicki, like Megan, Doja, Cardi. And unfortunately, it seems like rather than welcoming that, Nicki felt threatened by having this competition and sort of almost manufactured beefs with each of her peers that came up. And as she kept getting mired in that negativity, her peers were eclipsing her with their art. And she reacted to that by going into this spiral of more negativity that she fosters in her audience base. And it's put her in a position where she can certainly still make a healthy living off of her art, but she's not in the position that I'm sure she feels like she ought to be. And that has led her to continue spiraling to the point where she sort of betrays principles that she once strongly held. I mean, one of the most beautiful things I think about Nicki Minaj is I was watching one of my favorite pop culture commentators, Bob the Drag Queen, talk about how Nicki was really embraced by Black queer hip-hop fans as representing something for them.
We were riding hard. We were going hard in the paint, as the straights say, for Nicki Minaj. So we saw ourselves in her camp, like her excess, her theatrical femininity, and most importantly, her defiance. This is what spoke to us.
And she eagerly embraced that and tried to be a champion for them. And I think did really important work there because hip-hop obviously has not always been a welcoming space for the Black queer members of that fan base. And to see her betray the very clear statements that she made about Trump and Melania in the past so that she can get this sort of short-term satisfaction of owning her enemies somehow by being on the Turning Point stage with Erica Kirk, it's really sad and perplexing and just seems so unnecessary.
I read the quotes from Nicki Minaj's debut with Donald Trump when they showed up together and they did an event together. But until yesterday, I had not actually watched the clip of it. And I don't want to spoil it. Just her tone of voice is interesting.
I am probably the president's #1 fan. And that's not going to change. And the hate or what people have to say, it does not affect me at all. It actually motivates me to support him more. And it's gonna motivate all of us to support him more. We're not going to let them get away with bullying him and, the smear campaigns. It's not going to work, okay? He has a lot of force behind him, and God is protecting him. Amen.
The visuals on this are so fascinating because it couldn't be more symbolic that they have this mic basically positioned so you can't even see her face. Mm-hmm. And isn't that just say it all?
It's so ugly because it's so clearly exploitative from Trump and his peoples, and you know that they have no respect for Nicki Minaj, and you know Nicki Minaj has no respect for them. But she's decided that the best way to either keep herself relevant or stick it to her ops is to go up there and give this performance of aligning with Trump. It's just a sad end that everyone seems to reach. And I always wonder if Donald Trump standing there behind her, does he understand that he has gone through his entire life without anyone ever genuinely liking or respecting him?
No.
I don't want to put too much stock in those little bits of sort of karmic retribution from his personal suffering, but it's got to be a strange feeling, as opposed to Nicki Minaj, who's been genuinely beloved and has now reached the point of debasing herself. The MAGA movement always seems to bring people to a sad end one way or another.
You know what? You can see what I mean about her tone of voice, right? That's not how she talks.
No, you can go back to the clips of her on stage saying, listen, you don't want a Melania in your life. When she gave her real feelings about Trump, you could see she was saying it like she meant it, whereas now it's almost like a hostage video where she's reading, yes, I believe Donald Trump is great and the haters can never bring him down. Okay, did the check clear? Okay, yes, as I was saying, it's so transparent that it shocks me that the intended audience even buys into it.
Yeah, I just don't think that they're listening to her at all. They're just like happy that she's there, but they're tuning her out.
That's the thing. They have no genuine interest in what she represents or anything she has to say. Just it's a sort of cynical game of really identity politics that they're playing by saying, hey, look, this black female rapper that many of the blacks seem to enjoy is actually down with us. Okay, see, we're winning.
So we've depressed ourselves enough talking about Nicki and how far she's fallen. It's a tough hang.
And we've barely plumbed the depths, but it's more than enough for me, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I did watch that Bob the Drag Queen video, and anybody who's feeling the way that we're feeling about this, I highly recommend watching that video. He'll talk you through your feelings. I want to end on a kind of funnier note. Let's talk about Kid Rock.
Yes.
His Super Bowl performance, he lip-synced it. He denies this. I have the clip of him explaining himself, so let's just watch it together and let's see if we can make any sense of it.
We're here to address the fake news media and all the trolls that are piling on trying to say I was lip syncing on the Turning Point USA halftime to Ball with the Ball. If I was ever going to lip sync, which I wouldn't, that would be the last song I would ever have to bring in the fold to do it to. We've performed this song every night on tour since 1998. So the Turning Point event, so they sent me a first cut, we taped it, and then they sent me a first cut, and my comment was, the sync is off. It was very difficult for them because somebody clearly wasn't super familiar with the song. Also, when I asked them, I go, Freddie raps that song with me, my DJ. And they're like, he does what? And this is for the questions that don't have any
answers.
The midnight glances and the topless
dancers.
The gang, the freaks, the cars packed with
speakers.
The G's with the 40s and
the chicks with beepers.
The northern lights
and the southern comfort.
And it don't even matter if
your veins are punctured.
All the crackheads,
the critics, the cynics,
all my heroes in the methadone clinics.
Now get in the pit and try to love someone.
Boom. So he's filling in those words for me so I can, boom, bang my head, keep going and carrying on. I know these guys had a difficult time getting that sync together. So I have nothing but good things to say, not only about Turning Point, but the production team that they work with on this and other events they've done, top notch, first class all the way. Nobody's perfect, gets it right every time. But for the haters and the trolls out there, that's exactly what happened.
What? What did he just say? If I may quote the classic film Blazing Saddles, that is some authentic frontier gibberish right there. I do not know. I've been doing audio and working in radio all my adult life. That's not how any of this works. We definitely have the requisite technology to accurately sync an audio feed with a man on stage holding a microphone. Even if he's dancing around, we fully have the capability to do that.
It is true that often you'll see rappers have the backing track with their rap on it, and then they'll rap over it because it's hard to rap.
Yeah, that quite often they're, and old head purists like myself do frown upon that, but you will often see rappers rapping over the vocal track if they're not as polished or experienced. And it is true that in many venues, the people running the sound won't be familiar with hip hop. I don't think this even applies to Kid Rock, but people who are doing actual hip hop. So you do sometimes have to compensate for that. But I don't think that explains what we're seeing here.
No, and also, like, I remember seeing Wiz Khalifa, like, do this throughout an entire, like, 45-minute set once.
Yeah.
But Kid Rock was on stage for 60 seconds, and he's, like, telling us he couldn't rap his own...
Yeah. Meanwhile, there just happens to have been another live performance in a much bigger and more elaborate venue in which someone was rapping and singing live for 10 or 15 minutes and engaged in all sorts of physical activity as well. And there didn't seem to be any of those problems. And that was Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl. So I'm definitely confused as to exactly what Kid Rock was talking about there.
So to end this, I want to ask you the mic drop question, because I know you're going to have a good answer for this. If what seems to be happening happens and Kid Rock and Nicki Minaj do a duet together someday, what song should they do?
It should be a song where the male end of the duet doesn't have any vocals and just kind of stands there. I don't know what song that would be. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Maybe they do. I Have Friends in Low Places. So there's, on a more poignant note, there's an old Bob Dylan track inspired by the killing of Medgar Evers' name, Only a Pawn in Their Game, that's about how political leaders exploit, especially the white working class, by sort of pandering to their bigotry and using it to manipulate them. And I think maybe they could sit for a while with that song and have some self-reflection. I doubt it would work, but I feel like it would be apropos.
Yeah, Kid Rock would probably just try to scratch it on a belt drive record player. Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this, Jay. This has been awesome. Hype yourself. Give the people your socials, how they follow you.
Yeah, you can find me, just Google Jay Smooth, and you should find me on most of the platforms. I'm online far too often. And I'll be waiting for the phone call so I can get that Turning Points check. Up until then, you can find me in all the usual places.
And thanks for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And stick around for Encore. We have one more song recommendation for you. Hey folks, coming to you from Latchkey Records in Philadelphia. That is my partner's record store. And today's song recommendation is very mainstream, unlike last week's. We're going to talk about Lil Kim. Lil Kim, The Jump Off. But there's so many great Lil Kim songs I could have picked. It just happens to be the Jump Off from 2003 is on this record. But I really just kind of want to talk about Lil Kim and the way that like female rappers until very recently were treated, right? Which is, Lil Kim is just one of the most dope rappers of all time. She just had like amazing rhymes, just like clever, so cool. She was beloved by everybody. She was one of the best rappers of her generation. And yet I do feel she got caught up in the trap of there can only be one, the Smurfette principle of hip hop that ruled for so long, where there was room for all sorts of male rappers at the top of the charts, but the industry only had room for one woman. So for a while it was Lil Kim, for a while it was Missy Elliott, and Nicki Minaj got to be that person for a few years. And then what happened is Cardi B really broke the seal. She came to prominence with I Like It with Bad Bunny, and it seemed like initially she was gonna knock Nicki off her throne, and in a sense she did, but she didn't just do that. Cardi opened the door to just all sorts of female rappers, and now the charts are flooded with them. You have Megan Thee Stallion, you have Doechii, you have Doja Cat, you have Sweetie. You can just run down the list. And I think that it's awesome that we have a different era where a lot more women get to be popular rappers, but I feel like it's sad to me because people like Lil Kim could have had a lot longer, I think, and more robust careers if that had been the case decades ago. So yeah, The Jump Off, Lil Kim. Just listen to old Lil Kim records. They're great. If you want more Standing Room Only episodes, please click the subscribe button below. Standing Room Only started as a newsletter, and it's free to read. click the link to subscribe. I love tips. These political battles are playing out in your communities, your towns, your neighborhoods, your schools. If you have a story, please drop me a line or leave it in comments.